Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to the Sublime One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. So, welcome everybody to this Tuesday, and as we do every Tuesday, we have a Dhamma talk and discussion. I believe I know everybody, so there's no need for introductions or anything like that. So, welcome back everybody. Good to see you all again. I was reading a wonderful little PDF from Buddhanet.net, and there was a section in that thing. It's called "The Buddha and His Disciples," and there was a section in there that really connected with me because it's something that I felt strongly about, and it's something that I want to actually give a Dhamma talk about. And I believe most of us are probably Westerners, so in a lot of ways it doesn't have to do with us. In a lot of ways it has to do more with those of you or those who are brought up in a more traditional culture of Buddhism per se. But it gives us a good indication. How am I coming in for everybody else? Breaking up or? Okay. Well, Tarquin, if if it gets clear for you, hopefully. If not, just continue to tell me. I don't think. I was seeing that the radio thing was going for Meta, but I don't hear any of the normal repeating or background noise. So I'm not sure if I don't know. But anyway, so getting back to the topic, the topic that I wanted to discuss was, what is the job of a lay Buddhist? And for those of you, I want to give you the link to this one because I became enthralled by this PDF because often I don't really look into or read about the history and about the Buddha's disciples and all the names that I've heard reading the suttas the last couple of years. I never really looked into, and I never even actually knew that there were these stories and the history of all these disciples. And growing up Catholic and stuff like that, it was I knew about the disciples and all that stuff in the Catholic religion, but I didn't know that there were all these stories and this mythos about the followers of the Buddha. And let me give you the link to that PDF. And it's called "The Buddha and His Disciples." Now, one of the sections which surprised me a little bit was famous lay disciples. And in many in like Tibetan tradition and different and Mahayana tradition more, you see a lot of lay teachers, lay gurus. You don't really see that a lot in Theravada, which is my tradition. And I had a lot of trepidation when I first started doing this Dhamma talk, because I felt, as a lay person, and as a lay person who's not necessarily having decades of Dhamma experience, am I able to do this talk? And so I've had, over the year that I've been doing it, I feel this less and less. But I think that this PDF showed us that the importance of lay disciples in Dhamma. And I wanted to read this from this first part, which is something that connects with me as a Westerner. So let me read this. It's often mistakenly thought that it is the job of monks and nuns to practice and teach the Dhamma, while it is the job of laymen and laywomen to practice the 5 precepts and support the monks and nuns by providing them with their needs. This is an incorrect and dangerous belief, and in countries where it is widely accepted, it has led to a corruption of the Dhamma. The Buddha's goal was to develop a community of disciples, ordained and lay, men and women, who were well educated in the Dhamma, who practiced it fully, and who taught it to and learned it from each other. While the Buddha praised Anathapindika for his great generosity, he reserved his highest praise for Citta, and this is the most famous lay disciple who now I've come to as a layperson. For as long as I'm a layperson, I will try to live up to Citta, to be as Citta was. And the reason it goes on to explain how Citta, as a layperson, and some of the suttas, and I actually did go on Access to Insight and look at these suttas, monks came to Citta, and Citta taught the monks, because he was a great teacher of Dhamma, and this was a layperson. Now, as the bhikkhu who did this PDF explained, in many places like Sri Lanka, places like Thailand, and stuff like that, there can be this feeling that we're supposed to just follow, all we do, lay people, follow the 5 precepts and support the monks. That's it. And some people have feelings of that they developing merit by doing this is all that they need to do. And just as the passage that I read, the Buddha said that we all have to work out our liberation for ourselves. The special role of a bhikkhu, of a monk or a nun, bhikkhu, bhikkhunis, is to keep the Dhamma going throughout the centuries. And as such, those of us are lay disciples, those of us who want to continue to see that the Dhamma going through into the future, of course we want to support the monks and nuns at all, as much as we can. However, while we do that, we also have to realize that all of us, whether we are ordained or not, we are the fourfold assembly. We are the Sangha. The fourfold assembly, the Buddha stated, was the bhikkhus, or the monks, the bhikkhunis, the nuns, that's the female nuns, the lay women, and the laymen. That is the fourfold assembly. So when you hear the fourfold assembly, also to me known as my Dhamma brothers and sisters, I like that. The first time I ever heard that term, I heard Dhamma friends, was in a retreat from Venerable Dhammajiva from Sri Lanka, and he said Dhamma friends, and I said, why didn't I never heard that term before? And it fits so perfect, because we were all friends, we were all brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, in this practice, and that's what it's all about, right? The Buddha said, day in and day out, everything, it's about the practice. And he said, just as it was saying, Anathapindika was, if you read the suttas, you see his name all the time, because it'll start out, thus I heard, when the Buddha was at Anathapindika's monastery, or Anathapindika's garden. So you hear him all the time. So Anathapindika is a very, very famous lay Buddhist. for his generosity, for all that he gave to the monks. But the Buddha puts the practice above the generosity. And the Buddha said that whether with regards to just metta, not even the whole practice, but with regards to just metta, someone may give 300 large jars a day for 300 days to the monks. But greater is the person who practices 1 hour of metta, or 1 period of metta. So just from that phrase, you see, and that Bhante Silananda told us this at the metta retreat that we had a couple weeks ago. So just that one phrase about just metta itself, I'm not even talking about the full practice of Dhamma. We see the importance of actually practicing as being our job. Our job as lay people is the same job in a lot of ways as an ordained person. We want to see things as they truly are. We want to eradicate greed, hatred, and delusion in our lives. We want to, when we eradicate greed, hatred, and delusion, and wisdom arises, we see things as they truly are, we are enlightened. That is the goal, right? That is the ultimate goal in our practice. Or for Mahayana, if the Bodhisattva vow, the ultimate goal is to help others to be enlightened. But regardless, you still have to put in the work. You can't expect to give generosity and that's all I have to do. Just support the monks and then I'm good. I'll have a better rebirth or whatever, or I'll do that. That has nothing, it all depends on you, your own actions. Now, that's not to say that generosity is not important, that dana is not important. It's extremely important. And it is actually part of the practice. The Buddha talks about sila, samadhi, panya. Sila is morality. Part of that morality is dana, is generosity for all beings and for the Sangha. So that is an important aspect of it. But even more important to the Buddha was the practice. That's the most important thing. And to give another example, when the Buddha was basically on his deathbed before his parinibbana, the story goes that there were all these monks around him, and they were lamenting and they were sad, and they were paying respects to the Buddha. And there's this one monk who was just sitting by a tree, away from all of this, the farkas that was going on around the Buddha. And he was just standing there meditating. And the people who were all lamenting around the Buddha, they said, look we are paying respects to the master, we are sad and this and that. Look at this guy, he's not doing anything, he's just sitting over there. And he's not, no empathy, no compassion, or nothing like this. And the Buddha pointed to this one monk, and he said, this is my son. This person, meaning this person is doing what I taught. And that is the importance of the practice. Like I said, most of us, we're probably Westerners. We don't have, we come to the Dhamma, we come to the practice as viewing it as, this is a practice. This is an amazing thing for my mind and for my life, to live a better life and to see reality, to find that ultimate truth But for others who grew up in a Buddhist culture, sometimes they have to fight, to really see more than just the rituals going through. And I've spoken to many Sri Lankans, especially young Sri Lankans, about this, and it always warms my heart to see the young Sri Lankans who, while their parents may come and they may do the rituals and give the dana and listen to the Dhamma talk and they leave, the young Sri Lankans, sometimes many of them will stay and meditate, and that's like they know that is the true message of the Buddha, of the Dhamma. That is our true job. Our job is our own liberation, or the liberation of others. Either way, it's a good goal. Either way, it's an equal goal to me. It doesn't matter. But that is our job. Now, when the Buddha wants us to give dana, to have generosity, to help out, to give to the monks with the right view, with the right mindfulness, right? We're not giving anything to anybody for our own benefits, thinking, oh, this will give me much merit. My personal view of why I would do as much as I can to support the monastics is because I know, especially like for instance, I'll give it for instance for myself, for Bhavana Society, which is basically what I consider my second home. I know that this place, even though it's 5 hours away from me and it's not something that I can go to on a daily basis, this is a place where I have and I can gain much wisdom, much insight into the nature of things, and to realize Dhamma, to search Dhamma. And so I have the what they would call mudita, is appreciative joy. That's one of the 4 divine abodes: metta, karuna, which is compassion; mudita, which is appreciative joy; and equanimity. So I have this appreciative joy that Bhante Ji and Bhante Silananda are there to help me in my practice, and I can come to this place. So so you see the value in doing this. So that is part of the practice itself as well. As you practice and you see the value, and especially as you begin to have a confidence in the teachings, or faith, if you want to say it. But as in Buddhism, we know that we don't deal in blind faith. Faith in Buddhism is that you've seen that something works through your own through your own experience, right? Through your own experiential reality, you've seen that this works. And so because you know it works, you want to support it. And that's my experience right now, because that I know that this practice works, and I know that it's important, and I wish to help others to come to my realizations as well, supporting the fourfold assembly, supporting the Sangha is extremely important. But our foremost job in doing this, to really support the Sangha, to really support the message, the Dhamma, the way we fully support this Dhamma is by our practice. Because when we practice, other people notice. They notice that you're happier. They notice that things don't bother you as much. They notice that you're calm. And this is how you become a message, or the message of Dhamma to all beings. They see that you are practicing. And they become interested. And hopefully they start to practice, and they see the importance of generosity, of dana. But hopefully also that they see the importance of generosity within the framework of the practice itself, and not generosity as a means to an end. And know that just because you're a layperson does not mean that you cannot teach Dhamma, or you cannot help others come to knowledge of Dhamma. Look at Chitta, who's now one of my newfound buddies, my newfound role models. We know that a robe, and the Buddha said this as well, a robe does not make one wise. A robe does not, you don't need a robe to be wise. You don't need a robe to be a stream winner or enlightened. There were lay disciples that were enlightened in the suttas. It's an amazing thing that we don't really hear about often, but it's true. The most important thing beyond any conventions of monk, layperson, robe, not robe, the most important thing that the Buddha stressed over and over and over and over and over again is practice. And I've come to appreciate that as well, and finding teachers that say the same exact thing. Ajahn Chah, for example. That's what he said. Ajahn Chah said, if you have time to breathe, you have time to meditate. Bhante Ji and Bhante Silananda at the Bhavana Society, that is their big thing, is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Now, how you go about the practice, well, that's, individual to each person. But having the desire to practice, having the desire to put forth effort to practice, is what is most important. Because we can read all kinds of stuff about Buddhism, about Dhamma. We might even be a world's foremost scholar on Buddhism, and we might be a professor and teach Buddhist classes in a college for our whole life, and retire and die, and you might not know anything about Dhamma. You might not know anything at all experientially about the true nature of things. We only have this experiential wisdom, this panya. That's the only way we find this experiential wisdom of the true nature of things and see how things really are, is by our own practice. That's it. And if we find this insight, this wisdom, we cannot tell people. We cannot give other people that insight just by telling them, oh look, yeah, this is the insight, here it is. It doesn't work that way. If it did, then the Buddha could just say, oh, this is how it is, and then we're all enlightened. There wouldn't be any samsara anymore, because we'd all be enlightened, right? It doesn't work like that. So, the most important job, whether you are a monk or a layperson, the most important job is practice. And as we practice, everything else falls into place. As we practice, we develop compassion for all beings, including ourselves. As we practice, we develop equanimity. We develop metta, loving friendliness for all beings. The key is in the practice. The answer to the question is the practice. The meditation practice. Because as we see things as they truly are, everything falls into place. We start to develop right view. We start to develop right action, right speech, right livelihood. And through that we develop right livelihood. We said this job or this livelihood is harmful to myself or others. So why should I even bother doing it? And likewise, on and on. This is how the practice changes your life. Because the more wisdom you have, the more you understand how things are, and the more you are going to be doing actions, thoughts, words, and deeds that are beneficial to yourself and others. So we often might worry about these different things, like, oh, am I giving enough to the monks, or am I doing this, or am I doing that? But through practice we know what's right to do and what's wrong to do. In one of the suttas, the Buddha talks about the wise person knows what is right to be right and knows what is wrong to be wrong. The wise person does not believe that what is right is wrong, or what is wrong to be right. The wise person knows what is right and what is wrong is wrong. And we know, and we become a wise person through practice. That's how we become a wise person. That is how we fulfill our job description as followers of the Dhamma, as practitioners of the Dhamma. That is how we fulfill our job description. So I think that's pretty much, I've talked for a half hour, and we have a half hour left. So I think that's pretty much at this point all that I have in my mind regarding this topic. From here on in, we can have a discussion. If you have any questions, comments regarding this topic, because we're all lay disciples here. I don't think there's any monastics here, is there? We're all lay disciples, or we are interested in the possibility of becoming a lay disciple and following the practice. So we are all here. We can discuss and answer questions. And if nobody has any comments or questions, we can end early for the night. Most likely something else will come to my mind and I'll yammer on a little bit more. But other than that, any comments, questions, any thoughts about your own practice, about your own, how you feel being a lay disciple or a lay person? Yammer on about dukkha. I have a whole Dhamma talk about dukkha on my YouTube channel, and I developed a little bit of big-headedness about it. because I just recently got a comment from somebody said, "Oh, this is a wonderful Dhamma talk." I'm like, "Wow, somebody thinks I have a wonderful Dhamma talk. That's good." Yeah. So, yeah, but I can talk about dukkha quite easily. Let's see. Did I miss something else? Okay. I think Eva was thinking about typing something, but then she didn't. I can give you the link to that. For the most part, I pretty much record and upload all of these Dhamma talks to my channel. For anybody who's interested. Although I find that my extreme amount of playlists of dozens of monastics giving Dhamma talks on my channel to be much more beneficial. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, here's the channel. You can see. Oh, I've in the last 2 years, I've watched so much Dhamma on YouTube that I probably have 300 to 400 videos in my playlists, and obviously I've playlists of the Dalai Lama, of Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Chah, Bhikkhu Bodhi, Venerable Yuttadhammo, who used to teach here. A lot of different videos that are listed there. They're all very, very good. Now, here, that's my link on the Dhamma talk on dukkha. You know, Evil? I'm just finishing up a book that is an amazing book, and JT, I'm gonna talk a little bit about dukkha as well. It's called it's a story in a way, but it's a true story, and it's called Blistered Feet, Blissful Mind. And what the story is about these monks in England, the Buddhist monks from the Thai forest tradition in England that go on Tudong, which is basically when they wander. So it's the story about them going with nothing but their bowls. Nothing but what the monks can own 8 things, which is 3 or 4 of them are various parts of the robe. Then the bowl, they have like a carrying bag that they have, and then razors and forks and utensils. That's basically it. That's what a monk can own. So these monks basically took everything that they owned and they wandered through England for months. And the story, and basically the story is them wandering, the people that they meet, the Dhamma that they teach and that they learned, and it's I think it's a good book for somebody who's not necessarily a Buddhist, because it's not preachy per se. It's not like this is Buddhism, like boring kind of. It's really neat, and like the one monk in who's the head monk in the story. When people ask him, like in the story, why are you doing this? And his answer was, because we want to prove that humans have a basic generosity and want to help each other, even if they don't even. And it's in the story, you see people who don't even know what a Buddhist monk is, they give food to the monks and stuff like that. It's amazing, amazing book. I'm just about on the last 10-15 pages, but it's called Blistered Feet, Blissful Mind. Actually, I think I can give you the Amazon link. Huh, it looks like they don't. It looks like they don't really sell it anymore. Maybe it went out of print. I don't know. But if you can get a copy of it without spending $50, I don't know. I highly suggest. Unfortunately, it's not available on PDF form or anything like that. Um, the only other thing I can think of is this a person who's like wants to know more about Buddhism, or is it just like is she kind of interested, or just like thinks like, okay, you're interested, so I want to kind of know about it, kind of thing? Because there's like everybody, we're all on the internet, so we know what a FAQ is, right? Frequently asked questions. I'm sure we all know what that is. There's basically a book that was created just about almost 20 years ago now, which is basically a Buddhist FAQ. It's called Good Question, Good Answer. And it all the questions, it's very, very basic questions. Do Buddhists worship a god? All of these basics that we take for granted as Buddhists. We understand, we know all this stuff, but somebody who doesn't know anything about Buddhism might be interested in. And that actually is available for PDF. So let me find the link to that. Here it is. Oh, so she's well, blistered feet, blissful mind might inspire. It's but if she's practiced before, she kind of already knows, I guess, a lot of what would be in that PDF. But I highly suggest everybody else to keep that for